You know that Matt Burns here is from Flint. I think if you're watching at home or you're here in the audience, you know he's our local Michigander. And there's been a resurgence in hardware creation in the Detroit area, and so we are going to take a peek into that right now with our next panel. So please welcome to the stage Jake Sigal, who's the founder and CEO of Tome Software, Manoj Kumar is CEO of Powerley, and Itai Ben-Gal, who's the co-founder and CEO of iRule, with our moderator, Matt Burns. Big round of applause. Or small.
Yeah. Oh, how you guys doing?
Doing great.
I feel like it's day 6 and we're on day something.
Oh, CES is killer. Okay, so to dive right into this, because we have 15 minutes, I live in Michigan, you live in Michigan, you live in California,
That's
and we'll
great.
get to that, and you live in Michigan.
Yes.
So question 1, are the Lions going to beat the Seahawks tomorrow?
Yes.
Because Vegas doesn't think so,
Yes.
and I really want to put some money down on the Lions.
Yes.
All right.
No. Don't put money down on that.
Never put money down on the Lions.
Yes.
All right, great. Well, guys, thanks for joining me. It's an honor to talk to you. I've lived in Michigan my entire life. I live just outside of Flint, so my water is fine, to clear that up. My water's always been fine. My property value is terrible now, though. But Michigan is experiencing resurgence in everything.
Right.
And startups is fueling a lot of that. And you guys bootstrapped your company from the beginning. And this is your second company. So Jake, tell me how you went from company 1 from Michigan to company 2.
It's just what I do. You know, the passion that we have in Michigan is the same innovation spirit we have all over America. And, you know, I got to tell you that the people love to build great products and great experiences. And, you know, for me, we solve one problem with apps and cars and, you know, just on to the next. And it's being in this area really provides us the opportunity to work with people that passionate about solving problems.
So Jake, your first company was Livio Radio, and you sold that to Ford.
Yes.
Right? When you sold that to Ford, did you bring anybody with you and you started your new company?
Just my business partner, and you know, I do everything with my business partner Massimo, and then we build our team up from there. In fact, Livio is still a fully independent subsidiary of Ford, and they're exhibiting, and in fact, they've grown and announced major partnerships with companies like Toyota. So it's a great example of how you can build something, and then that mission and the passion stays through even post-acquisition.
Great. Now, Manoj, your company is based in Detroit, but you live in the Bay Area. And I really want to know how that dynamic works. How much time do you spend in each?
Well, I go home for 48 hours about on the weekend, and I just can't wait for Monday morning to wake up, get on my plane, get my weekly commute, and then head back on Friday. There's just a lot of excitement and passion, and I you know, I spent a lot of time in Silicon Valley with, you know, tech companies for the last 25 years. And I feel that Detroit at this point is going through a major renaissance, right? There's a lot of tech startups there. You know, GM is doing an amazing job with the Bolt. You know, there's a lot of innovation going on. It's the second largest population of tech talent after Silicon Valley. And the cool thing is that for my product, which is home energy management, right? We're looking for reliable, secure products. The automotive industry brings that to the table because that's kind of in the DNA. So, I mean, the talent has just been phenomenal. And, you know, we've kind of broken all kinds of benchmarks in bringing hardware and software in record time to the market. So, I feel that, you know, the decision that I've made and the excitement, you know, it just keeps growing every day.
Why not have the company in the Bay Area, though? Why have it in Detroit?
Well, we kind of started it in Detroit because the innovation actually came from DTE, which was all about real-time behavior change.
DTE, let's say what that is.
Oh, DTE Energy, it's, you know...
Yes, it's the Detroit area.
Yes, it's the utility out there.
Yes.
Our solution is designed by utility for utilities, you know, to proliferate the intelligent home, which is what we're doing, combining energy efficiency with automation. So since our first customer and investor is there, right, we built the company around it. And, you know, I was worried about getting talent, but I have just been amazed and surprised. We have an amazing team, and if I contrast and compare it, I don't regret, and the cost profile is lower. There is more passion because anything you do that's non-automotive is super exciting, right? Not only to people in my company, but the ecosystem. We have, third-party design houses, manufacturing. They all want to jump in. So it's all around super exciting.
Now, Itai, I understand you just sold your company.
Yes, 2 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you started, how long ago did you start iRule?
My partner and I started iRule 7 years ago. We spent the first 2 years doing it as a hobby. And audio video has always been a hobby and a passion that sort of spiraled out of control. And 2 years later, I started doing iRule full time. We raised some money, grew the company. We're now, around 25 people and looking to grow now post-exit.
That's really interesting. So your company deals with audio video switching, right? And you sold to a firm out of Israel?
Correct.
Why did you sell to that particular firm?
So Kramer, we actually partnered with about 3 years ago, and we were doing some software for them that they were reselling, and they were doing the hardware side of it. So it was a really great partnership, and they were also an investor starting about 2 years ago. And as things progressed and things continued to evolve and improve, it just made sense for everybody for the acquisition, and we just completed that.
All right. Now that we ran through everybody, and we can talk about things, now that everybody's equal stage time, let's talk about Detroit. Right now, what is the biggest barrier for a startup to operate in Detroit? Anybody can answer.
I'll jump right in on that. I think it's fear, and that barrier is going down. So being able to see success stories, especially outside of traditional automotive, and that includes mobility outside of traditional automotive, as well as power utilities, IoT connectivity, all these things, it's bringing that fear down, but it's still there. And it's fear for employees where they're, you grow up and you're taught to go get a job somewhere at a big company and work there forever. Fear with investors where, we better sell early, so, we don't want to put in the extra money to see the big exit. And we have a responsibility to help reduce that fear in southeastern Michigan.
Is there a community? I'm sorry, I do not spend a lot of time in Detroit. I spend more time in San Francisco than I do in Detroit, and I need to exchange that. But is there a community in Detroit that's large enough to sustain a Silicon Valley type atmosphere?
I think so. And it's growing every day. And that community is, from our office, we probably have 30 different startups that we're friendly with, and we help each other out. And there's not a week that goes by that somebody doesn't ask for a lunch or a coffee to bounce ideas off of. But you don't just have startups, you have mid-sized companies, large companies. Just down the street from us is GM. So there's an incredible pool of talent, and there really is that sense of community that people are going beyond just trying to make their own company successful, but helping others as well.
So, I kind of agree with what they're saying. One of the things that I found interesting, having spent all my time in the Valley, is I wanted to make sure that everyone in my company was an owner, right, and had equity. Now, just the fear aspect, right? When you join a startup, right, it's not, you're there because you're passionate about the idea to build something, but there's also financial gain to it. And fear of that, because you don't see a proof point where your neighbor, had a company and you sold it. You don't know what a stock option means or what's the value of that, right? And then that's going to develop over time, and people will take more risk and push the boundary, right, to go develop something.
Did you have to educate people in Michigan about that process?
Absolutely.
Yes.
How long did that take? And is there a story about when you had to talk to your first engineers or your first product managers about selling not only for the company but for themselves?
Well, it's a process. So, and typically you kind of build a senior team first, right, and then you grow it out. So our senior team helped kind of propagate the message and help people appreciate. And then every time, we look at our value as it grows on a quarterly basis, I make it a point to communicate that so people kind of realize that, okay, I have this piece of paper, and I own this, and it's my company, and I want to go out and be passionate about it in every possible way. So, but I think we've it's been a journey over the last 12, 14 months, and it's coming together.
Great. Now, Jake, you have a fantastic line. I've heard from many people, and I don't know if you know this line is popular, but I've talked to people about the difference between Detroit and Ann Arbor.
Oh, I was like, oh, you got to put me
Yeah.
on the spot for this line.
And
of course.
So yeah, you have
Itai
this
knows
line
this line too.
that. So there's a competition in Michigan. There's Detroit, and then there's Ann Arbor 45 minutes down the road. And Ann Arbor has long had an entrepreneurial community. And in fact, 50% of the VC money in all of Michigan happens in Ann Arbor. And Detroit's growing. But you have this line, we both fly out of the same airport, which is the Detroit airport. Do you see a lot of crosstalk between Detroit and Ann Arbor startups, or is there a divide?
Yeah, we've really put this all together, and we just call it One Detroit.
Detroit.
So One Detroit is southeastern Michigan, and we're all in this together. So a little bit about that education process is just understanding that we're not better because we work in small companies, just like you're not better because you work in big companies. We're all trying to solve problems, and that passion is what unites us together. So when we talk about One Detroit, all flying out of one same airport, that divide that was there, even 2 years ago when we talked about, I think we started this about 2 years ago here at CES, a lot of that's just gone. I mean, a lot of those walls have been knocked down, and the community has really supported that we're all in this together.
What's driving that passion?
I think that it's the feeling that you can build something and that you can make a significant impact, not only in your company, but in the industry that you're choosing to solve problems with. And I feel like for a lot of people that leave school, they just don't get that opportunity. And even if you're working at a large startup in the Valley or in New York, you may not have that opportunity, that significant impact opportunity to go work with some of these companies and go change the way that your industry works. So I think that's the biggest one. I don't know if you guys have a feeling.
It's kind of a catch-22, right? The talent has always been here, right? There's so much of innovation that's happened in automotive.
When you say there, do you mean in Michigan or in general?
In Michigan. I'm
Okay.
talking about Michigan right now, right? Now the fact that we have proof points that there's been success. There's been 2 exits right here. We just talked about that. Students when they graduate, they have the Silicon Valley model out there, and they feel that they can do it. Capital markets are accessible. There's money out here. There's risk, which is being mitigated now with all the success. So that all is driving. Now we have a bunch of folks, my colleagues that are in Ann Arbor, they commute. But we have a small satellite office there for them to, do the. And I feel that I don't feel a difference there. In fact, we are also working very closely with the University of Michigan on our data analytics, because we do a lot of coaching about energy efficiency. So for us, this One Detroit thing is pretty meaningful.
Let's talk about Dan Gilbert. I talked to him yesterday, the billionaire investor and developer in downtown Detroit. Right now, he's trying to build new buildings in Detroit, and he's asking for state aid to do that. He told me yesterday that there is absolutely no workspace in downtown Detroit. Now, you're in one of his buildings, so...
We're in one of the buildings. We still have office space. We've been in that building for a couple of years. We've been down in Detroit for about 5 years, and it's been fantastic. And we have seen companies grow and more buildings get acquired to fill in more of those positions. So
my question is there really no office space in downtown Detroit?
There's no parking in downtown Detroit, so you need to park a vehicle today to go work in Detroit. My company's based in Royal Oak, which is a suburb just north of 8 Mile, or outside the city limits. And I think that if you are in Metro Detroit, or we call One Detroit, even Ann Arbor, there are plenty of opportunities, but getting companies in close proximity is challenging unless you're in one of the more Main Street-able, if I'm going to make a word up, suburbs or in downtown.
Your first startup, I went to your office years ago, was in a 3-unit strip mall.
Yes, it was.
Is it still there?
No, they moved. Livio's gotten bigger now. They are also in Royal Oak, and they've actually just expanded in space. And Royal Oak does have a lot of space for that. But quite frankly, there's plenty of space in Detroit, but it comes down to price per square foot and to bring in some of the larger companies that want to be closer to smaller companies, where those larger companies have different real estate needs. And parking and travel commute is definitely a big issue. I mean, you just mentioned you opened a satellite office. I mean, that kind of story is, nobody wants to spend an hour each way in a vehicle going into work. So that's one of the challenges that we face without mass transit.
One more thing about Dan Gilbert, and we have to wrap this up shortly, is he told me he's trying to make Detroit into a fintech capital Do you see a cluster of financial technology companies in Detroit right now?
I'm personally friends with a couple of them, and they're doing some amazing work, and they're growing, and they're hiring. I think one of the advantages of the financial sector is it's an industry that can pop up anywhere, and at least a couple that I personally know have been incredibly innovative.
I want to throw something real quick in. As I said, I don't think that you can tell Detroit what Detroit needs to make or do. I think it's great to help, but we'll figure it out. I mean, that's what we're good at doing. And we have business with a human scale in New York making furniture. We do business with Ford and other great companies. I mean, you guys are doing power. It's like, I think that someone that would say, well, Detroit is the X, and let's get rid of the old one or focus. That's just not the grit, innovative nature of what we do in the Midwest, in my opinion.
Detroit's Detroit.
Detroit actually has surprised me. If I go back and compare it to 2008, I'm amazed at the renaissance that's happening there. There's all this space that truly is not available. The financial industry has to be there to fund the innovation. But just look at the gourmet restaurants that are popping up there. I mean, you go in there, you feel like you're in New York or London or someplace like that. They're just amazing. And all this is being driven by the talent that's coming into work and live there. And I think there's a huge change happening.
What's your favorite restaurant in Detroit right now?
Oh, geez. Slows.
Oh, I like
Classic.
Slows. Yeah, I like barbecue. What's your favorite restaurant?
Selden Standard.
Oh, I haven't been there. What's yours?
Green Dot.
Oh, I've been there. That's good. All right, fantastic. And with that, I have to wrap up today's panel. Thank you so much for joining me. And Jake, thank you for putting this together for me. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.